Good morning, students. Today we are going to take up part D of directing, that is leadership as an element of directing. You could see in the slide, one, taking a lead and others following it. That is what is literal meaning of leadership. If we see on this slide, we have two well-known authors from management field, Cyril O'Donnell and Harold Kunz. You will find Kunz O'Donnell is a very common publication in management where these two have together co-authored the book Principles of Management, and they had defined leadership as an ability of a manager to induce the subordinates to work with confidence and zeal. Leadership is the process of influencing the behavior of employees at work towards the goal. I've intentionally taken Kunz O'Donnell because as you'll be moving ahead for your further studies, you should be aware of these well-known management authors and their contributions slowly. Now, anyway, what a leader is, let us see. A leader can be defined by a simple act of an ability to get the others to follow you willingly. That word willingly is very important. By force, you cannot. Now, what if there is no leadership? Peter Drucker was another management expert. Peter Drucker was another management expert. Slowly, we are introducing the name of management experts also, so that at the time of your viva during your project, you are in a comfortable position. So according to him, without leadership quality, three things can happen: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Right? So there, the importance of comes as to why at all we need leadership. First, to influence the behavior of people. You should have that charismatic ability to influence people. Then, the personal relationships being improved through effective leadership. Then, whenever you want to bring a change in the organization, somebody has to take a lead. Then is, wherever there is conflict, the leader is the one who comes into picture to resolve it. So handling conflicts. And when it comes to providing training to the subordinates, you have to take a lead to train them. Next, we will see the qualities of a good leader. The qualities of a good leader. Normally what happens, initially it was a patent question of 5 to 6 marks, writing 5 to 6 points, getting 6 marks. Nowadays what happens, it comes in the form of case study. They will be narrating a story regarding XYZ person, and then they'll say what qualities of a good leader is he possessing. Identify and quote the line. Both the things. You have to identify and at the same time you have to quote also. Then we'll see one by one all these qualities. We are taking the first one where we have taken four together. We have taken four together. First is physical appearance. First is physical appearance. At times, seeing a person only, you get the feeling that yes, I should follow this person, he's great. So, first impression being the last impression in terms of your physical appearance, your height, your weight. Then, second is integrity in what you say, what you do. Then only people will follow you. Follow you. So, integrity in the values, in the act. Third is taking initiative. Fourth, a leader without knowledge, next to impossible. So your level of knowledge should be comparatively higher than what others are having. Next, we'll take communication skill. To be a leader, you need to communicate properly. Then, what you could see, ant holding such a big wood log. Only confidence, nothing else. So your self-confidence. Then your socialization ability, your social skills of how to work in group, to be with the group. Then decisiveness, your ability to make decisions, how good you are at making decisions. And last but not the least, your motivational skill. Your motivational skill, to what extent you have the ability of motivating people to take a leap, to take a jump. Now we are coming to the leadership style. There are many leadership styles. Those who will be taking up higher studies would be doing it also. We are restricting it to our syllabus of CBSE, and it goes with autocratic, what we say is boss centered also, which is authoritative, participative, or democratic, we say, where you are moving with the group. So we say it is group centered, and then is free reign or laissez-faire, where we say it is a freestyle. We'll take one by one all, but at a collateral level, we'll see part of it also. For example, here in this slide, you can see autocratic. The leader is giving you instruction, do this, do this. Then in democratic, come down and see, there is a two-way communication. You do what we together think, that is, what do you think we should do? A group effort. And laissez-faire, do this or whatever you feel fit. There's no interruption from the authority. We'll further discuss one by one, all in detail. First, we are taking up autocratic leadership style. Now, here what happens? The leader gives order and expects subordinate to follow them without any question. He gives reward and puts penalty directly to the subordinates. Now, as we can see, it's a classical approach where manager retains all the powers and decision-making authority and does not consult the staff, nor has given them permission to give any input or explanation. The staff is expected to obey orders without receiving any explanation, and structured set of rewards and punishment, what I said, is there. What is the impact of it? Normally we say The best example, Adolf Hitler, was a pioneer example of this, was greatly being criticized, and rather than going with what he did, like has suggested combining a dose of cyanide with a gunshot to the head. This was the level of giving order. We will see under which condition it is not at all bad. Where you have new untrained staffs, quick decision making is to be done. Effective supervision is to be provided. Staffs are not responding to any other style of leadership. The time is a restricting factor and the decision has to be fast. And when your manager's power is being challenged by the staff. Now, it is most effective when staffs are performing routine tasks over and over. They need to understand certain standards and procedures and performing tasks that requires handling cash or other things. Now, next we come down to democratic style or participative style. What we say is group centered also. It encourages staff to be a part of decision making. They are being informed about everything that affects their work and shares decision making and problem solving responsibilities. In this style, the leader delegates and decentralizes authority, gets the opinion of majority, and works together in a team. It's most effective when you want to keep the staff informed about the matters that is going to affect them. You want the staff to share in the decision making and problem solving. You want to provide opportunities for the staff to develop a high sense of personal growth and job satisfaction. A large or complex problem that requires a lot of input to solve. Changes must be made or problem solved that affect the staff and wants to encourage team building participation. There, we prefer this system. Now here what happens, leader multiplies his abilities through the contribution of his followers. Now this style should not be used when you don't have enough time to get everybody's input or suggestion. It is easier and more cost effective for the manager to take the decision independently. You cannot afford the mistakes. Managers feel threatened by this type of leadership. A staff safety is a critical concern. Then in that condition, we should avoid this system. Now, if we say the example of it, Narayan Murthy is also one of the glaring example. Napoleon was a glaring example. Napoleon never took any decision without consulting his ministry. We come to the last one, laissez-faire or freestyle. That means the leader is not very interfering. It's also known as handoff style. The managers provide little or no direction and give staff as much freedom as possible. All the authority or the power given to the staff, and then they determine the goal, make decisions, and resolve problem on their own. Now, is effective when you have highly skilled, experienced, and educated staff. They take the pride in their work and drive to do it successfully on their own. Outside experts such as staff specialists or consultants are used. and staff are trustworthy and experienced, then we can easily use this. Now, we come to the conclusion. Seeing all the three, which is there in your syllabus, that is why we are not taking others. There are many more, we are not taking those. That various factors which influence the leadership style are: first, the manager's personal background. What personality, knowledge, value, ethics, and experience does a manager have? What does he or she thinks his work to be? Then, the staff being supervised, what is their approach? Staffs, individuals with different personalities and background, the leadership style used will be varying depending upon the individual staff and what he or she will respond to the best. And then the third is the organization, the traditions, the values, the philosophies, the concern of the organization in influencing how to work out through a manager, all of them cumulative, that is your manager's approach, the staff's approach, and the organization's cultural values. They all together decide. Now let's see in brief is the difference in between the three. What is the difference? Decision making in autocratic, क्योंकि leader is making, it is centralized. Democratic, participation is there, so it is decentralized. And it is in laissez-faire only by the subordinates, so purely decentralized. Authority, let us see. Leader retains the authority in autocratic. In case of democratic, you partly delegate. And in case of laissez-faire, you completely delegate. What is the motivation? In case of autocratic, negative, threat and punishment. Democratic, positive, reward and incentive. Together we are moving. And in laissez-faire, it is self-motivated. Behavioral orientation. Autocratic is task-oriented. You have to do this work. That's all. Democratic, relationship-oriented. And laissez-faire also purely relationship-oriented. Need satisfaction. At what level is being satisfied? Autocratic, lower level needs, lower order needs. In case of democratic, partly lower order and partly higher one also. And in laissez-faire, only higher order needs. Communication part. Autocratic, vertical, one way only from top to bottom. That's all. In democratic, vertical, two-way, top to bottom, bottom to top, both. And in laissez-faire, it is both horizontal and vertical. Then, coming to scope for development. In autocratic style, the chances is very rare. No scope for development of employees. Democratic, employees' innovative and creative skills are developed. And in laissez-faire, there is full scope of employees' development. Thank you. That's all. Now here we are going to take up one part which is not in your syllabus, but as a matter of understanding, we'll take this, whether we say managerial grid or leadership grid. Both we talk of. Here we are taking it into 9 by 9 matrix outlining 81 different leadership styles. We'll be briefly taking up 5. First, 1, 1. You will see on x-axis we are taking concern for the production, task. And on the y-axis we are taking concern for the people. That is the behavioral part. These are the two temperaments we find in a leader. How good you are at getting the work, you know your work, and how good you are in maintaining the relationship with the people. So when we see 1-1, that means neither you have a very good behavioral quality of dealing with the people, nor you know your work, technical part. So we say it is idle manager, IDLE, good for nothing, good for nothing. You don't know anything. So sooner or later you have to be out of this leadership or managerial grade. Then is 9-1. X is 9, that means you know your work very well. You know your work very well. You are hard taskmaster, hard taskmaster. But behavioral part is not good. These are generally found at shop floor level. At shop floor level. They understand work, they know work, nothing else. Then 5-5, what we say MRM or mid-road managers. They are the ones who are generally churned out by the management colleges giving them training on both the aspects. Now from here, the candidate after passing out is free to move both the sides. Suppose somehow you have acquired technical knowledge, but you're not very much confident on it, or you are very much prone towards behavioral part. You like to deal with human beings. So slowly what happens, you will find these sort of people, they move towards administration and management, developing, improving their skill of human dealing, and their technical knowledge deteriorates. So they move to the grid of 1-9. That means poor technical knowledge but excellent behavioral knowledge. You'll find these type of people in personal department. Then come to the 9-9 grid. Very few are the ones who reach to this. This is the phase of extreme perfection on both the parts, technical as well as behavioral. You're excelling in both. And we say it is ideal, IDEAL, ideal manager. Now tell me, this 9-9 from here, where will they go for jumping? Generally, they are the selected ones who are taken up into the board of directors group. You are an asset for the company. Company takes you into their board of directors. Now, with we conclude leadership. Thank you very much.